What is going on, all you constellations out there in the multiverse? You are listening and viewing the Earth 16 Comics Wire podcast. I'm your host, Brian of Earth 16, and in this episode, I'm going to be speaking with Serena Sanchez on her upcoming comic, Black Rhapsody, a horror cult thriller comic about musical magic girls in a fight against a Lovecraftian pop star and her evil cult. Serena, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today or tonight?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
That's awesome. So we're gonna get started with the comic Black Rhapsody. So can you tell me a little more about Black Rhapsody?
Yes, Black Rhapsody is a 35-page plus manga-esque horror cult thriller, as you said before, about musical magical girls named after mythological goddesses of lore in a fight against what is essentially Lovecraftian Beyonce. So magical girls versus Lovecraftian Beyonce in bloody good fun. It takes the darkness of Madoka Magica, if you're familiar with that anime.
I saw that anime actually. What's it called?
Good. Poella, Magi, Madoka Magica.
Oh yeah, I think I did see that on your on the Indiegogo page. Okay, cool. So now, that's probably gonna lead me to my first question. Is just that I read the synopsis. I automatically thought about the impact that pop music has had on like on our culture, and you probably remember groups like Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Shakira, Britney Spears, or Christina Aguilera, and NSYNC, and the Backstreet Boys. Was the popularity of pop music one of the influences behind creating the comic, in addition to the aforementioned Puella, Maggie, Madoka, Magica?
As well as Berserk. I forgot to mention that too.
Oh, Berserk, yeah. And the Gem the Holograms, that cartoon. I never heard of those actually, though, and I looked them up. I'm like, oh, okay, I can see that.
Okay. Yeah.
So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, for the Gem one, mainly from the comic reboot of the series rather than the old 80s cartoon.
Oh, okay, the comic reboot of the series. I gotta look that up sometime. So, did you combine all those elements just to create this comic, and what was the process behind that?
The process behind Black Rhapsody?
Mm-hmm.
When I first came up with it, I was coming up with the designs of the characters because originally I had wrote a really bad story during my youth. It was really edgy and all that. I didn't like it, so I took the characters and kind of repurposed the concept to be more in line with the magical girl genre. But with every magical girl series, like Sailor Moon, Tokyo Mew Mew, Magical During Moon, they all have a specific theme. Sailor Moon has the planetary. Tokyo Mew Mew has the environmentalist animal theme. I want my own personal theme that hasn't been tackled yet. So why not choose musicians and pop stars?
That's really that's really interesting.
But for each of the girls, the main magical girl group that we're going to be following throughout the story, I didn't want to choose a generic pop idol look that so many different magical girl series have used, like cutesy Japanese idols.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. Plus, I don't personally like idols, culture in general, or just idols. I don't like idol music. So I decided to go with like a diverse theme for each of the girls, have them be based on different music genres from around the world.
Oh, interesting. It kind of it's funny. It kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy X too. I don't know if have you played the Final Fantasy games before?
I played 15, the one with the pretty boy band.
Oh, okay, yeah, because like Final Fantasy X too also had like a musical element to it. Because Final Fantasy X started out as a story about a young man who was a blitzball player. It's like basically it's like water polo / soccer / hockey. Really interesting, and it's like in a sphere of water that they swim into, and they had to, of course, shoot the goal. But there is this, he meets this summoner by the name of Yuna, and they they develop a bond, but then like it's kind of a sad ending because he finds out that he's actually an apparition or a dream, and like he kind of disappears. Spoiler alert. But in Final Fantasy X too, it centers around Yuna, and she becomes sort of like this. She goes from a summoner to becoming a singer, and she also has like this sphere that gives her that's like a it has like a power of a singer in it that is kind of based on her, if that makes sense. And she uses her powers to basically she uses her singing powers, and you can also play as the singing version of her in the game, which is really interesting. And
I think I saw that on the internet before.
You saw it?
Yeah, I saw pictures of her in the idol clothing that she wears.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
it kind of reminds me of that. And also, I think I did see some, like, it kind of also reminds me of Sailor Moon, which is like, you know, how they have their powers based on certain planets, like Sailor Moon, Sailor Jupiter, Sailor Mars.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminds me of that too.
Yeah. Well, for each of the girls, I'm gonna have their like. I tie in with a term. The twist on them is that they're named and based after certain deities. For the main character, Hecate, the girl that you see in the cover art,
mm-hmm.
the goth girl and her fairy side, which will be explained later in the story. She's based off the Greek goddess of witchcraft, necromancy, ghosts, and magic. And she can summon the dead using her song. But I had to. This is the thing, because of the nature of her powers and the nature of the deity itself, I had to be really careful with her because, as you know, necromancers are always depicted as evil for a good reason. But with Hecate, she can summon the victims of like serious crimes. Let's say a murder victim. If she's in front of the murderer of that victim, she can summon them to her and let that victim mete out their justice in whatever way they see fit. So she essentially fights for the dead. She doesn't use the dead for her own means.
That's interesting. Wow. So she's sort of like a summoner, and to bring back. So she's like a summoner that brings back the dead, like. And then, like, does she, like, interact with them? Does she, like, is it, like, based on, like, trauma or anything like that, that she summons the dead? Or is it just, like, her power?
It's just her power, because she was given the power of Nether, which is the energy that flows between the living world and the underworld. So her powers work in one or two ways. When she's singing to a crowd of people, especially those who have been touched by loss, she can temporarily reunite the loved ones with their lost lover or relative, only for the duration of her song, so that the spirits will have a moment of, let's say, closure, so they can pass on.
Oh, wow, that's... Okay, yeah, I see that. Wow. And, yeah, so I'm looking... I was just searching for the page, so I found it. The Black Rhapsody Part 1... Okay, so is she like, so, let's see. Okay, so it says here even music can have magic. That's, wow, I'm looking at the drawings here too, on some of the preview drawings, and I do see, I think it looks like a drawing of the undead. Is that one of them?
No. If you're talking about the one with the bloody girls?
Yeah.
Those are the antagonists of the story.
Oh.
They're based off the Greek goddesses of vengeance, the Euronids, also known as the Furies. So from left to right, you have Alcito, Megara, and Tisphane.
Wow. So I mean, you actually, it seems like you also bring in elements of the Greek mythology into this comic. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's not just Greek mythology. I'm bringing different types of mythology,
like other mythology too.
So it's like any type of mythology I want to tackle, because Greek mythology is just like, for this part of the story, is thematically appropriate.
I mean, I'm a fan of any mythology. I mean, I you know, like, like aforementioned Greek, and also I'm trying to learn some Nigerian mythology because I'm part Nigerian, and
Oh,
yeah, it's just there's just so much there's just so much out there, and all these amazing stories about like these amazing entities, or about regular people too that encountered these amazing entities, and I mean, these are stories that I feel are like untold, but if they're told in like this medium and all that, I mean, I think yeah, those stories can be told like like with your Black Rhapsody. I think it's you're kind of honoring them, and I think it's really cool personally. And
yeah.
then
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome, and also for the fact that you're bringing elements from like Lovecraft. And not even think about it, I remember the show, and it's actually based on a book too called Lovecraft Country. Have you seen that show on HBO?
I know I've heard about it, but it never interested me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of crazy elements in that show too, and I didn't see the full season. I mean, I saw some episodes. The very first one was really trippy, and it's about this young man named Tick, or Atticus, Tick for short, and he's a huge nerd, and like he's like in the Korean War, and I think he's having a dream where he's fighting. He's an African American fighting through the Korean War. Then all of a sudden he just sees like all this stuff from like aliens exactly, and he's just like, what the flip? And then he sees like this girl come up to him, this alien girl, and he's attracted to her. And then like Jackie Robinson comes out of nowhere, and the Koluth squid monster comes to get Tick. But then Jackie Robinson comes, and he just looks at him and says, I got you, kid. And then like he just takes the baseball bat and it's like whack, just like whacks the monster. And man, that scene sent chills through my gave me some chills. I was just like, wow, that is an amazing scene. I mean, you should definitely watch the show. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'll give it a chance.
So yeah, I mean, like, so tell me more about the hero, or the protagonist of this of Black Rhapsody.
Her name is Alethea Mahalia. She's. Are you familiar with the character Kaine from Near Replicant, or the Near series?
No, I never heard of that. I never heard of the character.
Okay, Kaine is this beautiful woman, but she is like the most foul-mouthed, violent chick that you've ever met.
Hey, that's my favorite type of character.
You need to look up Kaine from Near, and just look up the scene where her just holding the door back and she just cursing up a storm.
How do you spell Kaine?
Kaine. And
she's from Mirror?
Yeah, Near Replicant.
Oh, Near Replicant. Okay. Oh, wow. Let's see. Looks like she carries what looks like to be a broadsword. Wow. Let's see. And what's the scene that you're talking about? Like where she just like
holding down the door, she's cursing out the book. The entire story of Mira is crazy. I don't think I can explain it in this video.
Oh, right. Yeah, she looks like let's see.
Are you okay?
Leona.
Is this blood? The fight's over. And I
Looks like she's a video game character. Let's see. Maybe if I put funny moments. Okay, I see. Now. Ooh.
Yeah, that's basically Alethea. Just less violent.
Fuck off, book. Fuck, this book is a real asshole.
She like curses not just people, but seems like she curses everything, like objects.
She does.
You know?
She does. I played the game. She does.
And very carefully extend my hand.
But I just can't help but fall in love with her.
And pull out your fucking heart. You're gonna die today, shithog. damn it, we need to stop it. Rot in hell, asshole.
Man, like she has no filter.
She doesn't. That's why I love her. That's basically the main character, but less violent.
Okay, cool. So she has inspiration from that character. All right, cool.
And Yoko Matoi from Kill la Kill, if you know the anime.
Yoko Matoi. Oh, wow, you can give me a lot of good anime.
Matoi.
Ryoko. Okay, let's see Ryoko Matoi. And what's the character's name?
Ryoko Matoi, Kill la Kill.
Oh, Ryoko, okay. Ah. Let's see here. Oh wow, this one has no filter too. He just tells everyone to, you know...
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of Seto Kaiba.
Yeah.
Or actually, my favorite one is Bakugo from My Hero Academia. He also has no filter and just is a loose cannon, you know?
I'm vaguely familiar with that character. I don't watch My Hero.
Oh, you don't? Oh, it's a great anime. And also another one too that I like is from Outlaw Star. I think her name is she's from the Cartel Empire. I forgot her name though, but she's like this feline like character, and she just like goes ballistic every time like, you know, stuff doesn't go her way. I mean, you can definitely relate to some of these characters.
Yeah. So to continue on with Alethea, now that you see Ryoko and Kaine, you kind of have a bit of a understanding to what you're going to be dealing with. The main character, Alethea, literally does something so disrespectful to the, let's say, the Beyonce allegory character, which is the antagonist, Dulcie Bella.
Mm-hmm.
I probably showed pictures of her on my Twitter account if you've seen her. I could just DM them to you.
Oh, no, okay, yeah, you can do that too. I'm actually looking at your Twitter right now, and it looks like the cover art. Is that the character that based on Beyonce?
No, the cover. That's the
Oh, that's the protagonist. Okay.
So Alethea does something so disrespectful to the antagonist of the story that she now is in a fight for her life. I'm not gonna say what it is, but it's pretty funny. If you've seen Kaine, then you can pretty much tell what she's going to end up doing.
So it's kind of like a little. I feel like it's kind of like Birds of Prey too, where Harley Quinn does something, you know, to like take Black Mask off, and everyone's just pretty much after her and all that.
Yeah, I just uploaded Dulcie Bella.
Oh, that's her.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me a little more about the Dulcie Bella.
Dulcie Bella is. I'm not. Okay, I have to like think carefully because I don't want to spoil certain parts.
Right.
But she's basically an ancient god of darkness who basically came back, wants to be worshipped again by mortals, and she expects everyone to bow down her because she's a god. She's not used to a mortal talking back to her like Althea. So let's say eagles ensue, people almost die, and you have yourself a magical girl on the run. Again, this is the only way I can say this without spoiling major points of the story.
Mm-hmm. And like, let's see. So the main plot right now is just that basically they're at war with this, pretty much at war with this character, with this villainess who's probably like she's like a goddess or.
She's an ancient god.
Wow. And so does she have like does the main character have like what's her name again? I'm so sorry, I keep forgetting. Alethea. Does she have like some allies along the way too? Like, because I know you mentioned a couple of musicians that.
Yeah, there'll be like other magical girls that you're going to see throughout the series. One of them, as you say that you was into Nigerian, you was into like Nigerian culture. You're part Nigerian. One of them is based off a Nigerian goddess of the forests and animals
Oh
named Aja.
wow.
Now, Aja is probably the least known of the Orishas from what I looked up about her, because there's not a lot of information on her. So she's a lesser known god. And she's based off of Afro Soul.
That's really
Music
cool.
genre Afro Soul. Yeah. The soul of the forest, as I like to call her.
The soul of the forest. I like that. That's really cool. And I'm actually looking at the drawings that you DM'd me. These look really amazing. Who drew these? Did you draw these?
No, that's on the book Jan Apple.
Jan Apple. Okay, cool. And speaking of how you created this book, how'd you like form the team to create the comic?
Like how I met Jan through, I believe, ArtStation. This is after I had written the script for. I'm the writer of the story, and I don't have the artistic skills to bring it to life. So I had met Jan, I believe, through ArtStation, and I got in contact with her, and she was very interested in doing this project with me.
Yeah, it looks like a really fun project. I mean, and especially like with how the use of music and the music to actually like how powerful it is, and like this, instead of the usual weapons and all that. I mean, something unique as music is what I'm trying to say. That to me is really awesome. I like that.
Yeah, each of the girls' powers have a different effect to them. With the character I had mentioned, Aja, she can draw animals to her, kind of like a fairy tale princess, but she also can create a connection between people and nature, and use like that nature to kind of like to get people to interact with her. Without spoiling too much about her story, she deals with isolation and loneliness because she looks very masculine, and she's been made fun of because of her very feminine voice. So the only friends that she had were animals, but she does crave like companionship from other people. So she uses her music as a way to draw people to her, similar to the goddess Aja, who, unlike other forest deities like Artemis, Serena, who try to keep people out of the forest and away from nature, Aja bridges the gap between nature and people by using her song.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's wow. So I mean, like different abilities, so it's like wow, I'm telling you, this is like this almost reminds me of so many elements of Final Fantasy, so many elements of like I think even there's some elements of Yu-Gi-Oh! I feel, almost this a lot of it just reminds me of that, like especially with the 1,000-year-old deities or deities from way back, get reincarnated a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. And so they're going against this evil goddess, and along the way, without spoiling it, what would we expect from this comic?
Well, it is an 18 plus comic, so a lot of like violent scenes.
Mm-hmm.
As well as some like very risque dressed characters, because you're also going to have like on the villain side, there's also going to be like characters based off of certain celebrities that you might know. I got one in the works that's very clearly based off of Cardi B, because I can.
So it's kind of like NSFW, basically.
I would say NSFW, but close.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And yeah, foul language, because obviously the main character is, who she is.
Right. And so we're going to expect a whole lot of like pushing the envelope. I mean, just a little bit, not like totally ripping the envelope, just a little nudge, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I see that. Cool. So right now the comic's coming out on you're advertising the comic on Indiegogo, and are you how are you gonna go about advertising it when it comes out? Like, are you gonna do it in tiers? Are you gonna like a Kickstarter kind of a thing?
I'm going to do it in tiers. I'm currently working on the campaign draft, so I'm going to have at least 4 or 5 tiers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I also plan to for my campaign, I plan to have some pin-up art as well as a virgin cover of the virgin poster of the cover art as one of the tiers. I plan on offering an all everything together package tier, plus with acrylic standee offered.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so it's obviously going to come with some books and some pinup art and some acrylics. And are there any other how can I say this, like any other like t-shirts, or are they going to be like pins or anything like that?
April, that's what I mean. April, no, because this is a new property and I don't want to offer too much, especially when people don't know me that well. I want to establish a certain trust with them before I start offering more.
That makes sense. But yeah, it's like a really cool concept, though. I mean, it's like a mixture of basically it's a mixture of horror, and I think there's going to also be some comedy in it. I mean, judging by who the main character is and who she's based off of, and let's see. Yeah, I mean, these drawings are really awesome. And yeah, and the fact that you put in so many references from these. I mean, I didn't even know about some of these mythologies that you've just mentioned. I'm like, wait, what? I mean, it's just wow, that's really awesome.
I did a lot of research for this book, not just on the goddesses themselves, but also on the music genre, because I'm not familiar with anything outside of hip hop.
Yeah. Hello?
I'm still here.
Oh, sorry. I thought I lost you there for a second. So
yeah.
So you've been researching
a lot of research, as in listening to certain genres. For example, the main character, Alethea/Hecate, is based off of ethereal wave. If you it's a goth music genre, then when you listen to it, it's very hard for me to describe music, but when you listen to it, it sounds very ghostly, which is thematically appropriate for the goddess of ghosts, or the mother of ghosts, as she's called in Greek mythology.
So kind of ghostly, kind of like dark, like gothic, almost like not Victorian, but kind of like, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Grim? Not grim, no. Maybe. Go ahead.
Macabre.
Oh, yes, right. Kind of like vampire, not... Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Well, I mean, because, when I think of that, I think, Devil May Cry or, Castlevania.
Yeah. A very darkly feel to it.
Yeah, that's a darkly. I was gonna. Yeah, that's a better way to describe it. Yeah, that's really wow. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this one. Especially with the fact that there's gonna be a lot of musical references to it. I mean, you probably put you probably researched a lot of music. Tell me how you came about doing that. That must have been interesting. Studying music.
Yeah, because this is when I was coming up with the characters and what genre to base them on.
Mm-hmm.
For the main character, I was kind of playing with either dark wave or ethereal wave. Mm-hmm. In the conceptualization process. I decided to choose ethereal wave because of how it sounds, and it matches the feel of the mythological goddess I based her on. There's another goddess by the name of Hikawa Hime, who is another obscure goddess. The only thing we know of her that she married the great grandson of Susanoo, and eventually her descendants through her led to I'm gonna butcher this name. Onigashuri, oh my god, it
Wow,
a
it
lot of
sounds like a
like
tongue twister. Yeah.
yeah, it's like only no shoe. I'm sorry. She's based off of the Shinto mythology. So she's the daughter of the ice dragon Kuraokami, who is the dragon god of rain and ice, rain and snow. So for her, because of how obscure she is as a god, I decided to do a bit of a twist. Have her be based off of death metal.
That
but
is
try
unique.
to but try to do something different. Because for this guy, I plan on making her for this character, I plan on making her like this like masculine, very tomboyish chick who hates anything feminine because of how she grew up and how people perceived her as being helpless. So she kind of discards anything related to femininity, even take on a masculine name when she becomes a magical girl.
That's wow. That's yeah. That's a I think yeah. That's a really. It looks like some of these characters are gonna have to deal with some kind of like trauma. I feel, like like you mentioned the one who's like the goddess of the forest, like having to like find solace in friendship with animals when people would look down at her for like being masculine and then like having a feminine voice, and then you have this one who just doesn't really care. Like she's just her own person. She's just like I am who I am. So,
yeah.
Wow.
There's also another goddess who I based off the Aztec goddess of fire, Cantica. The character that I based on, she's based off of religious music, so the character is basically a religious succubus. Who, as you kind of know anything about succubus, they're very sexual creatures. So she had to kind of deal with that with her religion.
Wow.
Like, how can you stay pure even though that you're a creature of lust?
Yeah, it's really an oxymoron. I mean, now that I think about it, it kind of reminds me of like Nightcrawler from X-Men.
Yeah, Nightcrawler. Oh my gosh, you hit the nail on the head. Nightcrawler was a huge inspiration for this character.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, because he is truly a Christian man, despite his appearance. He's a man of God.
Yes. Yeah, and the fact that he's trying to like profess his faith, and yet despite his appearance and his abilities, he's still a man of God, and he's very devout, and that's why one of the things I found really interesting about him too, and just about the X-Men too in general. How, I mean, I feel like with the X-Men, I feel like it was a way to like teach diversity, and to welcome it, and to help people learn that hey, it's okay to be different. It's okay to have certain things about you, and that's what I think that's what makes the X-Men so unique. And I feel like your characters, like in this in Black Rhapsody, might they kind of carry that too. I mean, like they're gonna. I feel like they kind of have that same vibe going for them, just like the X-Men did.
You're not wrong. They do have a similar vibe.
Yeah.
For Alethea, the main character, is about realizing that your actions have consequences. Because her entire life in the story gets turned upside down when she does one stupid action. And now, as the magical girl of the dead, she has to consider the impact her powers have on the dead and as well as the living. Because, like I said, the power she has is power over the dead, and you can easily get corrupted by that if you're not careful.
Yes, power can corrupt. That's a that's in one theme. Yes. And I feel like it's sort of like she's in a sense like each of these characters are going to go through their own hero's journey. And I like those kind of stories too, where you have a group of misfits, people who are supposedly don't belong together in a sense, but then they actually turn out to work like a fine unit and become a force to be reckoned with, sort of like Vegeta and Goku in a sense, Or again,
Yeah.
going back to Final Fantasy, I mean, that's one of the things I love about the Final Fantasy stories and the games. It's just that you have these characters who, on paper they look different though, but then over time, when you see them coming together, you see their struggles and their triumphs and their losses. It's just a beautiful story, and you actually find out they have more in common than you think.
Mm-hmm.
And I love those kind of stories.
Yeah. There also puts me like numerous other magical, like evil and good in the story. That kind of has some depth within the villains as well.
Oh, you said
Again, I can't.
You see that in the villains as well?
Yeah, some depth within them. I can't get into it because that's spoiling. Because they're kind of like dark. What was that word you used? Like a dark opposites, dark mirrors of the main characters. Is why I tend to some of the villains. The dark. Some of them aren't girls, some of them are women. But let's just use a catch-all term: dark magical girls.
Right, dark magical girls.
And they're kind of based off of evil or Lovecraftian goddesses, at least in a concept phase I currently have with them.
Wow, cool. So yeah, even with villains too. I mean, I feel like there's a story with villains too, and I think, I mean that those are the best stories too, in my opinion. I mean that. Everyone has a story and like has a struggle, and then you find out, oh wow, I didn't know that about them. And some of those being like being told from the villain's point of view. I mean, those are ones I really enjoyed too. Like one of the first movies I actually seen was with a buddy of mine. He actually passed away.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah. It was called Maleficent. It was based on like the villainous queen from like I think it was like from the
Sleeping Beauty. I've seen that.
Sleeping Beauty movies, yeah, and like it was played by Angelina Jolie, and I was really amazed with like how they portrayed her. I mean, of course, they started off at her as like, all innocent, trying to live her life, and she meets the prince, who eventually becomes the king, and then he just takes away like her ability to fly, her wings, yeah. And then I was just like, wow, it's like then you start to understand like why she turned evil, and it's just like, oh man. And and then how she actually had love for the king's daughter, because it shows who she truly is. She wasn't really quote unquote the villain. It was more like the king who was the villain. You're like, ah.
Yeah, I don't. With some of the dark magic girl, I don't know if I want to go with the sympathetic villain. I do prefer some of them to be like straight up evil sociopaths.
Right. I mean, there's that too. Like, I mean, Lex Luthor. I mean, obviously, for instance, like Lex Luthor is always going to be a sociopath, no matter what. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like the comic. I don't know if you read it though. It was called Luthor. It was about Lex Luthor, and everything was just from his point of view. And
I don't think I've read that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you read it, I mean, it's just, I don't want to spoil it though, but the ending, it just kind of makes you like it just, I mean, when I read the ending, all I could say is just that I was like completely wowed. I was like, dang, and because like Lex Luthor, he saw, with someone like Lex Luthor, he sees himself as the epitome of like humanity, humanity's potential, I feel. Whereas, he sees Superman as a threat to humanity, but, obviously Superman's no threat to humanity unless if you play the Injustice game or some
yes,
yeah.
Oh my.
But then there's that. But then for the most part, though, it's like, in the mainstream, no. And, Lex Luthor, you can tell that he's jealous of Superman. Once, he thinks that if he had Superman's powers, obviously he would actually mold the world in his own image. And I think we see that with a villain like General Zod, for instance. General Zod to me is basically like what Lex Luthor would be like if he had Superman's powers. I mean, So I mean, just just for, stuff like that. In terms of like stories about villains. But like you said, like in the long run, most villains are going to be evil. I mean, that's why they're called villains. But then also you have other stories like the anti-heroes. I mean, you have any anti-heroes in Black Rhapsody?
Yes, but I'm not gonna say who they are because that'll be a spoiler.
Oh, spoiler! Yeah, that's right. Kind of like going River Song spoilers, and I don't know if you watch Doctor Who, but
I don't. I'm not. I can never get into Doctor Who.
Oh, it's such a great show. You should definitely watch it.
I don't know where to start.
Oh, I mean, like I think with Doctor Who, I mean, where I started was like the 10th Doctor. That's where I kind of started. I mean, and once you get into it, like some stuff comes along, and I think with Doctor Who, he kind of it kind of explores a little bit of mythology too, and especially some of the comics too, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So wow, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
No, you can continue.
Yeah, so yeah, it sounds like you put a lot of research into this. I mean, I'm completely wowed. And when does this comic come out?
I plan on watching April 29th.
April 29th, so about a month from now. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get me a copy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna wrap things up with the podcast. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or any final thoughts?
I currently have a fan art contest for Black Rhapsody running. The deadline for the contest is April 21st.
Mm-hmm.
The details of the contest is listed in my pinned tweet at Magic Gal Media. So click on the pinned tweet and scroll down, and you'll see more information about the art contest. The theme of the contest is dark parodies of music albums and concept covers. Yeah, concept posters. Sorry.
That's all good.
And it has to correlate to the character's genre. Meaning that if you have a character that's based off of hip hop, you can't give them a art piece that's based off, let's say, Kiss or Guns N' Roses, because those are two incompatible genres. So it has to correlate to the character that's based on that genre.
That's cool.
And to enter is on my pinned tweet. You can, if you're interested, you can contact me at my Gmail, magicgalmedia@gmail.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the Earth 16 Comics Wire podcast. Yeah, so look it up on Indiegogo.com for Black Rhapsody Part 1. It's going to come out on April the 29th. And, yep, and also be sure to, if you want to get any updates, check out Serena's Twitter page at Magic Gal Media. Where you'll see all the stuff. And of course, if you want any more updates on my podcast, you can go to my podcast at Earth16 Podcasts, or my personal Twitter account at Brian at Earth16. And thank you so much all for listening. This is Brian of Earth16, and this is Serena Sanchez of Magical Media signing out.
Bye.
Bye.